absolutely huge match for the NGW Undisputed Championship next week. But speaking of huge matches, Alex, time for our main event. And here comes Liverpool's #1.
Zack Gibson is a man we have not seen on British Wrestling Weekly since that epic Team Warfare showdown at the end of last season. Let's not forget that we thought he joined the Control, but at the conclusion of that match, he left Richie West and essentially hit a ticket to ride on Rampage Brown, and that not only lost Rampage Brown the match, but ended the reign of the Control in NGW. We've not seen Zack Gibson back since. We know why. He wants a shot in that Davey Boy Smith Cup, and you have to believe that Mark LeBet has told him if he can beat Rampage Brown, then he has a much bigger opportunity to get in that prestigious tournament.
The collar and elbow tie up. The intensity of the rivalry between Rampage Brown and Gibson certainly not abated at all during Gibson's absence. And you're right, Mark LeBet dangled that one carrot that he knew Gibson wanted above all else, a chance to compete in the second Davey Boy Smith Cup. Look at that slap.
Nobody is less intimidated by Rampage Brown than Zack Gibson, and that is saying something, because Rampage Brown is, in my opinion, the most intimidating professional wrestler in British wrestling today.
Rampage and Gibson continuing to exchange forearms here. Now, the other part of this, of course, is it's not the best decision ultimately who gets into that Davey Boy Smith Cup tournament. You've got to think that the Smith-Hart family over in Canada are going to be watching this one with an eye to who they would like to put in that tournament.
Well, I've spoken to people close to the situation, and the exact wording that LeBet gave was, listen, you don't have the opportunity to have a say in your future if you're not in NGW to say it for yourself. Don't talk to a camera, prove your worth and come back. He got Zack Gibson to come back for this match, but yeah, you're right, it is down to the Smith and Hart family who gets selected. Nobody wants to get in that tournament more than Gibson. He won the first one, and as we know, that was one of the prerequisites that the previous year's winner can't enter. I mean, in my opinion, Zack Gibson deserves a shot, but it's not down to me, it's not down to you or Mark LeBet. Look at this.
Speaking of shots, these two have been taking shot after shot at each other. This is just unreal, the degree to which there is still such personal animosity between Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson.
Well, Zack Gibson said this isn't going to be a wrestling match. The internet are not going to give it 5 stars, he said. This one is going to be a fight. He warned us last week at the end of the programme, and those words have become so prophetic in the early goings of this one.
Both men throwing the kitchen sink at each other in the early going. Gibson tried to go behind there, back elbow to the side of the head from Rampage. That's a clothesline and takes Rampage Brown down. Liverpool's #1 starting to get up ahead of steam here in this grudge match main event. Roll through, maybe go for the Shankly Gates. He's going to go for the Shankly Gates submission. Rampage hooking his fingers together and he counters. We've got a big boot. We've got to go to our last commercial break. This grudge match continues when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Our main event in progress here on British Wrestling Weekly, a grudge match between Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson, and it is Brown who has taken the upper hand during the commercial break.
All through that commercial break, Dave, Rampage Brown has sought revenge against Zack Gibson for what happened at the end of Team Warfare, and he has decided to inflict that revenge by a relentless pounding on Liverpool's #1.
Brown with a chop across the chest, and the frenetic pace that this one's had from the get-go has been really remarkable. It's incredible to me that Iceman's got anything left in the tank.
And this one's called a grudge match because Mark LeBet has told referee Adam J that within reason you can let these guys go. But that has been said previously, and we have seen some dire consequences as a result. So Adam J has been told, expect these guys to fight, expect this one to be a rough and tumble affair, but also make sure that their safety is paramount. Nobody wants a lasting injury, and if any two guys can inflict it on the other, it's Gibson and Brown.
Gibson gets clothesline down from Brown. Yeah, I guarantee you neither of these men are thinking about safety, they're just thinking about ripping lumps out of each other here.
Who can forget some of the incredible matches we've seen on this very programme? Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson at the Liverpool Olympia. And then, of course, British Wrestling's Ultimate Showdown. It's how we kicked off Season 3. Rampage Brown, Zack Gibson, and the show stealer Nathan Cruz. One of the best matches that we've ever had, in my opinion, on this show. And now two of those men are in the squared circle for our main event this week.
Brown is trying to cut off the supply of oxygen to the brain here, trying to wear Gibson down. This is really the first time that this match has even slowed for an instant here.
And I mentioned Nathan Cruz in that British Wrestling's Ultimate Showdown match just a minute ago. Let's not forget, Dave, on next week's programme, it will be champion versus champion. The first time ever in New Generation Wrestling history. The Gen X Cup holder Matt Myers against his best friend and the NGW Undisputed Heavyweight Champion, the show stealer Nathan Cruz. It's a rematch we've waited 2 seasons for, and it's going to happen in just 7 days' time. And I, for one, Dave, can't wait.
Yeah, not just champion versus champion, but best friend versus best friend. An enormous, enormous showdown next week on this programme. But this one's pretty big as well, as Gibson is trying to fight his way back into this grudge match against Rampage Brown.
And I mentioned the referee letting it go. I have seen more close fists in this match than any I've probably seen in an NGW match, and referee Adam J is surprisingly allowing some of them to fly.
The referee is taking those instructions from Mark Lebet seriously and letting this one go as much as possible. Gibson trying to get some air back in the lungs here, get some fuel back in the body to try and put Rampage Brown away.
Look at the toll that it's taken. And here's a question, Dave. Do you think that potentially Zack Gibson is using rope-a-dope like Muhammad Ali did in Zaire at the Rumble in the Jungle? He is allowing Rampage Brown to burn himself out.
Well, it's entirely possible. You know, Gibson is absolutely not some kind of mindless brewer. He's a tactician, he's a thinker, and he knows what he's doing in there.
And it may just have worked. He has taken the best that Rampage had to offer and allowed Rampage to almost burn himself out by delivering offense. But here's the question, Dave. How risky is that strategy for your long-term health?
I'm not sure either of them are thinking about their long-term health at the moment. So
Ticket to ride there.
Ticket to ride could do it. He's got that left leg hook to beat Rampage Brown, but Rampage gets the right shoulder up, and we will continue.
Remember, it was that move from the second rope that Gibson delivered to Brown at the end of Team Warfare that created all this controversy. If he can hit that again, I mean, it could be all over.
Gibson sensing that the end may be near for Rampage Brown. Go for the cover again. Again he hooks the leg, and again Rampage Brown gets out.
Twisting brainbuster. And we knew this one was going to be heavy. We knew this one was going to be hard for both men. Heavy hitters, heavy weights. Everything about these two men indicates that you're going to have a fight on your hands when they're in the squared circle. You put them in there against each other. Man.
Gibson, is he going to go for that Shankly Gates again? Again, Rampage knows him so well, instantly knows to link those hands together. Best way to block that attempt.
And what's also interesting is Gibson normally always spends the entire match working on the arm, but so far he's not had that luxury because he's been fighting for his survival.
So exhausted, aren't they? Look at them, both of them. Throwing absolutely everything at each other here. What a main event in Hull City Hall.
Look at the toll that this match has had on both men. The slowdown in their delivery of those forearms. I mean, they're exhausted, Dave.
But exhaustion's not going to stop them. Both of these guys so desperately wanting to beat the other. Oh, such a primal dislike for each other.
Guillotine on the top rope there by Brown, and look at that belly to back suplex. And that is a good strategy. Cut off the flow of oxygen by dropping your opponent's throat on the top rope and hit him with that belly to back. And Rampage Brown's telling, he's telling referee Adam J to count him down.
He wants to win this by, I guess, a technical knockout, but Gibson's not done. Gibson is going to get up. In fact, he's up before Rampage here. And Rampage, again, another big impact. Gibson's head bouncing off the canvas there like a tennis ball.
Oh, and the ref's counting again, and this is a smart strategy for Brown, because if he doesn't have to roll for a cover, he doesn't have to fight against Gibson. The count is longer, but all the emphasis is on Gibson to get to his feet. Brown recovery time, and that's exactly what he needs.
At this point in the match, it's all about preserving energy. Big Samoan drop. And he'll go for it again. He'll go for a count-out win again here.
Oh, this is like a last man standing match, or dare I say a boxing match.
Brown once more will fight to his feet and hope that Gibson cannot follow suit. But Liverpool's number one is still moving. He's still conscious, and that means he's still fighting.
Look at the shock and awe on Rampage Brown's face. If there's one thing we know about Zack Gibson, is that he will not quit, and he refuses to give up.
Gibson is asking for more. Look at this.
Wow.
Is he insane?
Dave, it is rope-a-dope. He is challenging Brown to wear himself out.
But Brown doesn't seem to be worn out. And Gibson is getting absolutely taken apart here.
That Gibson he's putting his life and his long-term health in his hands. In fact, no, he's putting it in the hands of Rampage Brown, which is a much scarier proposition. Look at this.
Pounding again and again and again on the back of the neck is Rampage Brown. Brown. Now got him backed into the corner.
Gibson covering up as best he can. Oh, look. Oh, he's sucking him in, Dave.
Gibson, he found a way out. Rampage eats the turnbuckle there.
And don't forget that under that patch is a steel hook that supports this ring.
Gibson came charging, Rampage put on a double clothesline, both men down. What a battle.
This is unlike anything I've seen, Dave, in NGW. Gibson warned us, and the referee's at a count of 5, and
I've got up to 6 referees counting both men out. I'm not sure either of them's got anything left. We're up to 8.
No way.
And neither of them made it. Neither of them made it. And we're gonna this is gonna be a draw. I think this is a draw.
Evie Aaron's asking for clarification.
Both men counted out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the referee's decision. Both men failed to beat the 10 count. Therefore, this is a double count out.
Wow. It's a draw, Dave. I said it's unlike anything we've seen on this show. I've never seen a double knockout on British Wrestling Weekly.
And they still want to go. Look at the look in both of their eyes.
Oh, God.
They're still going. Gibson and Rampage, it's over.
And who are you going to get to stop these two if they've decided? God, Adam J's trying his best out. If I was him, I'd get out. Oh, he's going for the pile driver.
Rampage over the pile driver. Gibson sends him to the outside. It's wild. Absolutely untamed between Gibson and Brown.
Oh, it's all about security, and I'll tell you what, Dave, they are braver men than I. To try and get between Gibson and Brown.
Looks like we've got these two separated. But Alex, the question here is, given that neither man won this, what does Mark Lebet do in terms of his recommendations to the Hart-Smith family about the Davey Boy Smith Cup?
Well, you have to believe that Gibson thought that he was going to come back into NGW and beat Brown and instantly qualify in the hearts and minds, at least, of the Smith and Hart family for a shot in that cup. But to come back here and have a first ever double knockout and a draw, that's thrown that straight out the window. This is I have no idea what Mark Lebet's going to do about this.
Rampage, it looks like, is finally going to call it a day here, but my goodness, what a battle, what a war between Gibson and Brown. And really didn't reach any kind of conclusion. Nothing is settled by the fact that these two had a double knockout.
Well, from heated rivals to best friends, Dave. We spoke about it earlier on next week's programme. Matt Myers, Nathan Cruz coming up on this show. 10X champion against NGW Undisputed champion in just 7 days' time.
An enormous contest for the NGW Undisputed Championship. Next week, our main event here on British Wrestling Weekly. Don't miss it.